But also add this at the end of what?
Let me finish my
point.
So very often in the context of this Israel-Gaza discussion, the comparison is made, a lot of comparisons and parallels are made with World War II. And that's for a number of reasons. And so you have Rabbi Shmuley, he's trying to over and over again make this comparison of like, you know what, in World War II and, you know, Churchill did these things and why don't you call him a war criminal? And, you know, when ostensibly less people have been killed in this conflict, et cetera, et cetera. They're trying to make these comparisons, but as you'll find out, they fall flat on their face with very simple, you know, sort of logical deductions. They get into this and a few other topics in the course of this debate. I'm going to let it play out and then have some thoughts at the end. Let me know what you guys think, especially my British audience. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and we will discuss it vociferously down below.
You're already interrupting me. Just be civil, please. We had a civil debate at Oxford. Let's try to continue. We shook hands afterward. Hundreds of thousands of people said how much they enjoyed watching us shake hands. Let's be human a little bit. I'm going to do what you said, Piers, and stick to the facts. Number one, Cenk just said that Israel killed so many more civilians that were killed on October 7th. 45,000 Britons died in the Battle of Britain when the Luftwaffe and Hermann Goering, you know, bombed London, Northampton to smithereens. But Churchill killed 700,000 German children. He killed 3 million German civilians. That was terrible. But here's my question to you, Piers. Outside of Parliament is a giant statue of Churchill as the greatest statesman in the history of Britain. Was Churchill a war criminal, yes or no?
No, Churchill wasn't a war criminal. In fact, Matthew, I saw you shaking your head.
Okay. He wasn't. Okay. You said facts. You said facts.
Well, hang on. If you're going to make statements like Churchill,
45. Wait.
Your numbers aren't correct about the number of civilians who died. Never mind anything else.
Yes, they are. There were 3 million German civilians killed by Britain and by the United States. There were 70,000 Japanese killed on a single day in Hiroshima and then Nagasaki. Half of them were children. 35,000. Was Harry Truman a war criminal? Was Roosevelt a war? If you are prepared to say, Piers, based on facts and based on what Cenk just said, that the proportion of civilians to combatant deaths determines whether you're a war criminal. And by the way, Churchill killed 5 civilians for every 1 German combatant. The United States in Fallujah killed 4 civilians in Fallujah in Iraq for every 1 terrorist Iraqi combatant. So was George W. Bush a war criminal? Was Tony Blair a criminal? If you're prepared to at least be consistent and say that, yes,
well, yeah, I think Bush and Blair were war criminals.
3 million. Was Churchill... Okay, do you think that Winston Churchill was a war criminal? It's a yes or no question.
No.
The same way you put it to Danielle, yes or no?
Churchill, well, let me let...
So Churchill can kill 3 million
All right, you've
Germans,
asked a question.
Okay?
You've asked a question. Matthew.
I think it's a completely coherent and fair question. It's about means and ends. Is the means justified to achieve a given end? For what it's worth, I think that consequentialist approach is legitimate. I think that Truman was justified in the atomic bombs. I say that reluctantly. But I think there would have been many more deaths had the Second World War not been brought to an end in that way. I know some people will disagree with that position. However,
okay, so you're one of the most fair person. Wait a second. So you're one of the most fair person that I've ever spoken to about on this show. All I'm saying is, let's be clear. Piers, God weeps for every Palestinian child, the 20,000 children. I don't know if it's 20,000, but even if it is, weeps for every one. One was too many. But every Arab child is the equal of a Jewish child. But whose responsibility is it? Who builds? I live in a community here in New York, New Jersey. There is no army base near me. Why are the Hamas headquarters in nurseries? Why does Hamas use these children to die so that you will then point the finger? Now, even Hitler did not do that. The German military headquarters were not built in kindergartens. And let me say one final thing, Piers, if I may. Piers, you know what struck me about your interview with Daniela Weiss? You did not once ask her, what do the people of Gaza want? I don't care what Piers Morgan wants. I don't care what Daniela Weiss wants. I don't care what Cenk Uygur wants. I don't care what Rabbi Shmuley wants.
To lead.
The people of Gaza don't speak for them in the same way I won't. They have not had a vote since 2005 when Hamas took the leaders of the PLO, the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, and threw their opponents off the roofs and killed them. Then Hamas abolished all elections. Now, I want the people of Gaza to vote. Do you want to remain in that tiny hovel where you don't have a backyard, where any money that's given to Hamas, if it's rebuilt, will be, again, it'll go to tunnels? Remember, that the Hamas got triple the Marshall aid per capita for Palestinian, and they didn't build one bomb shelter, they didn't build one school, they didn't build one university, they just built tunnels and rockets. Ask the people. So Piers, let me ask you, why did you ask?
May I say to the rabbi, forgive me for persisting here,
where they want to live.
But the rabbi did say, I think legitimately, that he had been interrupted and he didn't like it. I was halfway through the point that I was making, if I may say so, when you jumped in. I said that I thought Truman was justified. That's fine. In ending the Pacific War. I think Churchill was justified in trying to end the war in Europe. What I don't understand, and I think a lot of people who are instinctively pro-Israel do not understand, are where are the sunlit uplands on the other side of the evisceration of Gaza? I've been told by senior Israeli officials, confidentially, that young Gazans, Palestinians and people across the Middle East are being radicalized, that these dead Hamas fighters are being replaced at a rate of 5 to 1. This isn't going to affect Israel for the next 5 months or 5 years, but for the next 50 years. And how on earth is flattening Gaza going to help the protection of Israel when their funders are in Tehran?
No, I agree.
The image, and let me just make one final point. In the medium term, I say to the rabbi, and I say this with great sincerity, the image of Israel, I don't want to superficialize it, but the brand of Israel, that liberal democracy in a tough neighborhood which sits unconsciously behind Western support and has done since the Second World War, has been obliterated, shattered into a million pieces. The next generation of American leaders are going to grow up where the most salient image in their minds is not going to be the Holocaust, as it is for our generation. It's going to be emaciated Gazan children dying in their thousands, being starved via a blockade. I say to you, I understand why Israelis and Jews rallied around Netanyahu after October the 7th. Who wouldn't? After an atrocity of that kind. But I believe you've been goaded into an overreaction that will reverberate through history of great strategic disadvantage to a country I want to do well.
I see you.
All right, and before I let Rabbi Shmuley respond, Rabbi Shmuley, I just wanted to pick you up on the statistics that you regaled at the start of that, which I think you said that the British killed 3 million German civilians, including 300,000 children. Is that what you said?
A 5-to-1 combatant to civilian
just to be
ratio.
clear, you said 3 million, and of which 300,000 were children. That's what you said, right?
Right.
It's
the British decimated Cologne, they decimated Berlin, they decimated Hamburg, they decimated Dresden. In Dresden, they killed 30,000 in one night, etc.
Let me finish my point. You were completely wrong. You were wildly exaggerating the number of civilians killed by the British bombing campaigns, the Allied bombing campaigns. It's estimated between 350 and 500,000 German civilians were killed in total by Allied bombing in World War II. And I would also add this. At the end of...
Okay, so I said 700,000.
Let me finish my point. Let me finish my point. So it was a sixth of what you said, in fact. But the wider point is we brought in the Geneva Convention at the end of World War II specifically to address the issues of mass civilian casualties in World War II. The UK signed up to that. Most countries of the world signed up to Geneva. Israel is a signatory to the Geneva Convention, and yet it breaches regularly the Geneva Convention, including, many believe, what they're now doing as a government in Gaza.
I don't know how you could possibly say, by the way, I don't have the advantage of having researchers behind me or having a laptop. So can you ask your researchers, how many German children did Churchill kill? That's what I want to know exactly.
Well, no, I've given you your chance to spew statistics. You were completely wrong.
How many children? You were completely wrong. German children who were totally innocent? No, 1 second. You said that Churchill killed 700,000. And now you said that Israel killed 40 or 50,000. Doesn't that make Churchill a much bigger war criminal than Netanyahu? Yes or no, Piers?
No, he's not a war criminal. Churchill is not a war criminal.
Why? He killed 700,000 civilians. Why?
Why aren't you answering my point?
You won't answer my point. If Netanyahu is a war criminal for killing 45,000 Palestinians, why is Churchill, whose statue sits outside Parliament, not a criminal for killing 8 times that amount of people? Go ahead, please.
Cenk,
And by the way, let me just tell you, Piers, you can't say the technology didn't exist because the Americans used the Norden bomb site and only did precision daytime bombing. Mr. Syed will know that. It was Churchill who said, I will not risk a single RAF pilot. I don't care how many Germans die. I will only do indiscriminate broad nighttime bombing. Churchill was out to decimate cities,
allow
to break
somebody
the
else
will
to speak,
of the German people. So why is he not a war criminal? You won't answer me, Piers. You won't answer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm trying to answer, but all you'll do is propagandize for a bunch of terrorists. So, first of all, Piers is absolutely right. We passed those Geneva Convention laws so that we could prevent crimes against humanity, not just what the Germans did to the Jews, the Poles, the Roma, etc., but also what the Allies did in indiscriminate carpet bombing of civilian populations. So we tried to learn from the Holocaust. We tried to learn from World War II, and we all said never again. These laws should not be broken because it leads to terrible situations. Israel then said, no, we're above the law. We get to break any law we like. And now, and in the case of the Germans, they were killing 6 million Jews. They killed 13 million overall. We were trying to stop a Holocaust. In this case, Israel is the one doing the genocide and saying, well, I mean, why are you trying to stop us from killing innocent Palestinians and taking their land? Because in that analogy, you're the Germans. So the Palestinians...
I'm the German?
Those innocent children didn't do anything, dude.
Did you just call me a Nazi?
If you're supporting Israel... Yeah,
I'm a Nazi.
So look, they did a Holocaust, which is
and you called other people fundamentalists. The current
terrorist state of Israel.
You just called me a Nazi.
Hey, Rabbi, can I?
This is a sad. This is a sad day for you, Cenk. Cenk, this is a sad day for you.
No,
just for your credibility, take it back. I'm begging you. Not for me.
Can I finish my sentence?
For your credibility, just take it back.
I'm not going to take it back.
This is a sad day for you.
I'm not going to take it back.
This is a sad day for you. So this is to compare me to the SS as a Nazi. This is a sad day for you. Your credibility will never recover.
From Cenk.
I want to invite the viewer.
I'll never recover. No,
Pierce, may I answer? Pierce,
can I finish a
now
sentence?
that I've been called a Nazi, can I respond? Pierce, may I respond?
No, because I haven't finished the goddamn sentence. You think you own everything. Go ahead, you don't own everything, Rabbi Shmuley. You don't own the American government. You don't own the American people. By the way, when is America going to get its $300 billion back? We gave it to a bunch of criminals to murder children. Okay, you murder children with our money. Every day you take money out of my taxes. I go to work every day, and then Israel takes money out of it to murder Palestinian children. You've murdered 20,000 children already. You're the aggressors. Israel has already killed more babies than Hamas has killed civilians overall. Israel has killed a stadium full of women and children. And you are surprised that we compare you to the Germans? Omar Bartov, an Israeli-American Holocaust expert, just wrote an article in the New York Times saying that now the Israelis are doing the type of genocide that makes saying never again absurd. Absurd. Why are they doing the thing that was done to them? The world had tremendous sympathy for all Jews, and I do, all decent human beings do. But what Israel is doing is lighting that sympathy on fire and saying, we get to murder, we get to kill, and you can't call us any names. We get to call all Muslims who fight back against us terrorists. We get to attack all of our neighbors. They attacked Syria again today. We get to break all the laws. We get to commit war crimes. And I'm telling you right now, just like the Germans, you do not have the right to commit war crimes, to commit a genocide, to kill all those children, and then hide and use as a shield. Oh, everybody's an anti-Semite. You're canceled. You don't get to say it. You've ruined your credibility. No, Israel has ruined its credibility. Israel is now one of the most monstrous states I have ever seen in my lifetime. They commit endless terrorism. They rob the American people of our money to rob Palestinians of their land. That is actually a stone-cold fact.
Okay.
And I was right. Israel is now occupying 75% of Gaza. It was always to steal their land.
Okay.
And by the way, it is a desecration of Jewish history and Jews overall.
Pierce,
to compare what this
Cenk Uygur
government
Cenk, I want to bring
the history of Jews.
Okay, Cenk, I want to bring in Matthew to respond to that.
I just can't help thinking, listening to both of you, how different the region and the world would have been if after October the 7th, as the whole of the world reeled against the heinousness of that crime, the sympathy of the global South was with Israel. Polling was very strong for understandable reasons. And I don't want to reduce this to opinion polls. That was a moral atrocity. If Israel had acted proportionately, it's a difficult word in a context like this, but hadn't visited the carnage, had retained the support of the wider world, had gone for a rapprochement, an accord with Saudi Arabia. It already had the Abraham Accords. Most moderate Sunni opinion was in favour of more harmony between the Arab world and Israel. Most of these Arab governments are relatively moderate. Just think of that, how Iran would have been isolated, the collateral that Israel could have brought to bringing peace to the region. And what's happened instead? This overreaction, the inflamed conversation that we're listening today, ever more entrenched positions. And the thing that I think historians will be most fascinated in is how, as I understand it, good reporting from the New York Times just recently, that an accord with Saudi Arabia was scuppered from within the Israeli cabinet by Smotrich and the extremists, who have every incentive to keep this war going because of their really quite horrific objectives, and Netanyahu's personal political interest of obfuscating a trial for corruption. That is what I think is a great tragedy that is unfolding before our eyes. And listening to the entrenched positions of you two, Piers, I don't see an easy and obvious solution.
No, well, I certainly concur with the difficult solution.
But no, wait, I now disagree with Matthew. Don't equate us. Don't equate me with a terrorist.
Piers, I have to be able to speak. Piers.
Right, Rabbi Shmuley, your response.
I've been called a Nazi on the show. Okay, thank you very much. Matthew, you're a very fair person, but with all due respect, you're just not realistic. You are a noble idealist. The two most important words that were ever uttered in the Second World War were surprised upon Winston Churchill in Casablanca by Franklin Roosevelt, who didn't even tell him who was his ally. And Churchill had fought the Nazis alone. Those two words were unconditional surrender. Churchill said, if you insist on unconditional surrender against the Nazis, they're going to fight to the last man. And Churchill was actually secretly negotiating with Heinrich Himmler through Count Bernadotte in Switzerland without the Americans even knowing. The Americans insisted on unconditional surrender. And why? They understood when you have a terror regime like the Nazis who do engage in genocide, unless you finish them off completely and defeat the idea of militarism, that Hamas can achieve its objectives through military objectives and not diplomatic objectives, then you will never have peace. Hamas has launched 6 wars against Israel since Israel voluntarily withdrew from Gaza in 2005. Israel uprooted its own citizens. It was almost a civil war because it used the IDF to uproot its citizens. I want to talk fact here. Not what you think, Matthew, not what Cenk thinks, and Piers, not what you think. Just fact. That's a fact. 2000. So Cenk says Israel wanted it back. They used their soldiers to uproot their citizens and destroy their houses. And my wife's first cousins were one of those houses, 2005. My children planted the last trees in Gush Katif, and they were cut down by Palestinians right afterward. 1 second. Let's stick to facts. Number 2.
So you wanted to steal their land from a long time ago.
No. 1 second. I did not interrupt you. Piers, when you say breaking the Geneva Convention, that's not fact at all. Israel withdrew from Gaza. There are 1.9 million Arab Israeli citizens living under the protection of the IDF who don't even have to serve. Israel does practice apartheid, but reverse apartheid. It drafts Jews only and not Arabs to the IDF. My sons are fighting right now in Gaza and Lebanon, protecting 2 million Arab Israeli citizens. And let's remember, when Iran fired their missiles on Israel, one missile took out an entire Arab family near Nazareth, killed 7 Arabs. My sons are risking their lives for 1.9 million Arab Israeli citizens, which gives the lie, factually, to the utter stupidity and ignorance of what Cenk is saying about a genocide. Genocide was a term coined by a Jewish lawyer, survivor of the Holocaust, named Raphael Lemkin in 1947. It was adopted by the United Nations in 1948, the UN genocide. What is genocide? Geno is an ethnicity, a nationality. Side is mass murder. It's where you kill a nationality. If Israel wanted a genocide, the first people it would kill is the 1.9 million Arab citizens who vote, who have 10 members of the Knesset, whose members get up and curse out Israel every day and can't be arrested. They have diplomatic immunity. Israel is the most just, most democratic and freest nation in the entire Middle East, which is why those Arabs in Israel did not rise up in revolt after October 7th. Now, Matthew, let me tell you one final thing.
Can I reply?
Matthew, wait, let me just finish. You're a very reasonable man. I wish you were right that after watching women have their breasts cut off and being played baseball with it by the terrorists, when those women were raped and shot in the genitals, when Shani Luke was raped and then put on the back of that truck on her father.
Israel murdered 20,000 children.
I wish that Israel could have thought of a proportional response. But Matthew, let me put this to you.
Please.
Don't you think the war would end tomorrow?
But you had to murder children instead. You were forced into
surrendered and released the hostages. Israel would leave Gaza tomorrow. My children are in Gaza. I want them out.
No,
I don't want Gaza.
Look,
I want the people of Gaza to have a vote. I don't want what Cenk says. I don't want what Piers said. I don't want what Daniela Weiss said. Give the people of Gaza a vote. Where do you want to live? Where do you want to be displaced to a better country?
You had a lot. You had a long. There was a key.
Let Matthew respond. You asked him a question. Let him respond.
You at the beginning of that contribution, you made a substantive and I think reasonable argument. You drew an analogy between the destruction of Hamas and the destruction of the Nazis.
Leave Gaza tomorrow. My children are in Gaza. I want them out. I don't want Gaza. I want the people of Gaza to have a vote. I don't want what Cenk says. I don't want what Piers said. I don't want what Daniela Weiss said. Give the people of Gaza a vote. Where do you want to live? Where do you want to be displaced to a better country?
You had a lot. You had a long. There was a key.
Let Matthew respond. You asked him a question. Let him respond.
You at the beginning of that contribution, you made a substantive and I think reasonable argument. You drew an analogy between the destruction of Hamas and the destruction of the Nazis. I think this is a flawed analogy. Nazism was a nationalist movement within Germany. It was not intended to be an international movement. Germans' allies in the Second World War, Italy and Japan, it wasn't really an axis. They hated each other. They didn't coordinate effectively. By defeating the Nazis in Germany, they defeated Nazism. Religious fundamentalism crosses national borders. It's an ideology. You can't, please understand, you cannot bomb it into submission. I mentioned earlier that they're replacing dead Hamas fighters at a rate of 5 to 1. This is going to come back to haunt you for years. The way to do it was to isolate the funders in Iran by having a proportionate response, less than what you've done, retaining global public opinion. These metaphors, and I've heard them from Israeli politicians, they melt under scrutiny. Please think about, by the way, the psychology is completely different between what's happening in the Second World War, German, European psychology, where you could rebuild a democratic country, and what's happening in Hamas in Gaza. Unless we're clear, unless we have clarity over what the objectives are for Israel, Netanyahu's not talked about day one. We have no idea what the plan is, except for Smotrich's idea of ethnic cleansing, which would tarnish Israel's image irredeemably.
Yeah, I've got to leave it there.
But Matthew, we do know.
I've got to leave it there.
I've got to say,
listen.
Israel says they're going to take Gaza. They say Palestinians will never get a state.
Israel,
so we know. I don't know why you're obfuscating for Israel.
It was Trump who said he would take Gaza.
We're going to murder the Palestinians until we take Gaza. They say total annihilation. Why do I say the Germans? Because they're talking like the Germans.
I can't believe you didn't hear that.
Total annihilation of the Palestinians.
The good thing is we have a thing.
Donald Trump said he's taking Gaza.
We already know.
The
good thing is 75% of Gaza.
The good thing is, if I may, the good thing is it's come out of Smotrich's own mouth, the finance minister, that the plan is to, quote, cleanse Gaza of Palestinians. Right. It was unequivocal. We all heard him.
Smotrich is one guy in the government, and he was. And the next day, Bibi told him that I totally disagree.
Then I get told he doesn't matter. No one listens to him, and yet the New York Times.
I didn't say he doesn't matter.
New York Times reported that the whole deal to release hostages.
I completely disagree.
When the whole deal to release hostages a year ago was abandoned because of Smotrich. So a guy who doesn't matter managed to do that, which would have prevented tens of thousands of people
being... That's not true. There were two ceasefires against Smotrich.
I've got to leave it there.
And he left the government, so that's not true. Smotrich, you got to be factual.
Stop funding Israel.
Smotrich is an evil human being.
They should not... Give us the $300 billion back, Israel.
And he is a senior government minister.
We didn't send it for war crimes.
Who is making it clear what he wants to do.
I've got to leave it there.
I've got to leave it there, Rabbi Shmuley. We have run out of time. I have another guest waiting. I'm going to leave it there. You all had a good time to speak. I appreciate the debate. Thank you very much.
Matthew.
Good Lord.
It was great meeting you. God bless you.
Yeah. Jesus. All right. Well, that Matthew guy is my first time being introduced to him. I don't know exactly who he is or what he does, but presenting himself as sort of the reasoned person in the room. But he makes some of the best points, wherein if the way that Israel has pursued this has led to the weakening of their state rather than the strengthening. If you were just trying to, if you were just having this sort of bloodthirsty, visceral reaction and wanted to kill as many people as possible, in the name of hatred and otherism, well, then you got that, and the pursuit of power and preserving power. That's what it seems like the Israeli government has done. The reality of the situation, the better solution would have been maybe some kind of targeted attacks, addressing and attacking Hamas and their tunnel systems. Nothing indiscriminate, as we've seen, obviously. And then pivot towards diplomacy, deals, and some kind of diplomatic solution that would have led to decency and humanity for all involved. Instead, they've gone with a complete, the complete opposite of that, and just going and trying to destroy everything and everyone in sight. And as Matthew points out, for every civilian you kill, you probably create another, 5 terrorists, and you prolong the problem for yourself indefinitely. So it is not a solution. It is just a bloodthirsty, visceral reaction. And it is the most base of human reactions possible, preservation of power, and a complete disaster. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Obviously, that's pretty much the full gambit of that debate. Let me know what you guys thought about that in the comments, and I will see you guys here in the next one.